Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cook This Digital Cookbook. Have you ever been to a recipe site or blog and had to scroll all day long just to find the recipe? If you're looking at our example, we're 3/4 of the way down the page before you get to the actual recipe. So we wanted to cut out all of those boring blog entries and annoying ads and really focus on getting the information to the users and presenting it in a fun and unique way. We also wanted to help everyone understand that cooking isn't just for fancy kitchens and full fridges, but that anyone can eat delicious, healthy meals, or not so healthy, regardless of budget or lifestyle. My name is Alex Stein, and I primarily worked on the front end of this project.
My name is Mia Oliveira, and I also worked on the front end of this project.
My name is Pedro Barbosa. I also primarily worked on the front end of the project.
My name is Arsima Berher. I worked primarily on the back end.
Sure, yeah. My name is Zakaria Mahmoud, and I work primarily on the back end.
We started with a couple hours of thinking about what we wanted and our product to look like and functions it would have. We talked about the Java object, back and front end components. We came up with a map to guide our progress, allowing us to have an overview of how the relationships would work.
We then decided on the tools we'd use to build our application, decided who wanted to work primarily in either the front or the back end, and split up to get coding. It's important to work as a whole team, so we would have at least 3 full team checkups each day, one at the beginning of the day, one after lunch, and one at the end of the day. It also gave everyone the opportunity to add input throughout the whole project instead of just working on an island at either the front or the back end.
We started our front end by creating templates for what each page should look like with just the HTML and the CSS. This took us through our first week, and we were able to openly communicate and, being an agile team, adjust based on what the back end was doing and vice versa. We then built those pages into our JavaScript files and components and began linking them together in the app file and implementing our back-end API, and then moved on to fine-tuning and finalizing features for our final week.
Starting with the entity relationship mapping, we went on about creating the POJOs, repositories, and then the controllers that will construct our database and enable it to communicate with the front end to populate the pages with our data created via the database populator, which includes some of our favorite recipes. Then the API mapping was tested so that we could get it in place and get things running.
We also had a really good time working together, learned a lot as a group, and are really proud of what we created. So without further ado, here is the Cook This Digital Cookbook. As you can see, we mimicked the look of an actual cookbook for this design to give it a unique feel and fun, which then led to the obvious choice of book tabs as our navigation, which you'll see persistent on every single page throughout the project. Including on our About page, which this same information about our devs we wanted to create, make accessible from anywhere on the site as well, which is why we put it in the footer, which in the footer, every single one of these devs has their own unique pop-up with all of the links and information for all of our developers.
We also wanted our users to be able to come to our website without much cooking experience and be able to learn how to cook intuitively. Without just following the recipes that we had provided. So what we did was we embedded a number of videos that give some basic intuitive skills to people who don't really know how to cook. So there's basic knife skills, there's how to create balanced flavors, meal planning, and none of these videos navigate away from our page. Everything that we have, the descriptions and the videos themselves, are embedded into the page. The user does not need to navigate away. But now we want to move to the heart of our project, our actual recipes and our categories.
The first thing we did on the back end was to build everything we needed for categories and recipes. Since they are the heart of the project, they included relationships mapping between categories, recipes, and ingredients, as well as embedded classes we used for the recipes.
Once all that was in place in the front end, we took it all and built it out. And so we navigate to the recipes primarily through the categories tab, which is what you're looking at. But we do have a search feature we'll talk about later. Each category is displayed in a list. And as you can scroll through, click on each one and it'll take you to that single categories page, which lists out all of its related recipes. Each recipe, the first recipe on each category will be populated on the right, and you can change that and see whichever recipe you're interested in simply by clicking on its tab. We had some fun additional features as well as not just the picture, ingredients, and instructions, but little check marks so you can know where you are and what you might need to pick up. Our favorites feature and an overall rating, when clicked on, has a pop-up that lets you submit a review and see what other people have said about the recipe.
The single ingredient displays an ingredient for each recipe. The ingredient is a poja with an entity and it is mapped to a recipe. You want to be able to provide users with as much information about food as we can, so we made ingredients a class and gave users a way to look at them all individually.
In addition to users being able to look at our recipes and the things that we added, we wanted them to be able to submit a recipe as well. So this page allows the user to construct their entire recipe, their steps, their ingredients, and even a picture of URL that can be imported to visually display the user's creation. It'll preview to the right once all of the fields are filled in so that the user can look at what the recipe will look like before their submission. The recipe will then show up when the user presses submit in their chosen category page, just like everything else that we entered. So our most difficult and arguably impressive feature, however, was our search function.
The search has a cool expanding animation which opens up the search input. It uses JavaScript, HTML, CSS.
It also uses a custom smart search that we built to look through all of the possible recipe names and compare it to what's in the search bar after each letter is typed or deleted. We used an add event listener to direct users to a single recipe view when a recipe is clicked.
Mia and I used CSS, HTML, and JavaScript to create a login pop-up. Full authentication would have taken a little more time than we had allotted for the project, so we stuck to front-end functionality.
We matched our login styling to the other input areas on the website for a more cohesive look, and then we made it accessible from every page.
In the future, we would like to add user functionality like viewing and editing previous reviews and clicking on the little heart next to the recipe title to save a recipe to the user favorite.
At the beginning of this project, we set out to build a website that provided easy to navigate recipes and education. With our first goal pretty much accomplished in building out a recipe site, further development would have a larger focus on accessibility, education, and user functionality. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we'd love to open up the floor for questions.